All right, today I have Sam on. We were going to talk about the Oil Creek stacked races, which is a 5 and a 13 mile race um, up in like Titusville next to the Drake Well Museum. He just completed both races, and I wanted to get his opinion on it. So, Sam, before we get started, did you just want to give a brief intro to yourself?
Yep, I'm 57 years old. I'm going to be 58 on Friday. I kind of started running in 2017, and kind of my background, I always did blue collar jobs, kept myself fairly fit. I was a competitive swimmer as a child. I did the YMCA programs in high school. I always kept pretty fit through my working life. Then in about 2012, I was working at a construction company. I took an office job, and the fat started to roll on. Started to not feel very good about myself. And one of my workmates had done a couple of Tough Mudders, and he was always egging hey, come on, do these with us. And I signed up for one in 2016 and realized kind of how out of shape I was and needed to get something going. I was traveling and living down in Pittsburgh during that time, and I came back home to Titusville, and some of my friends were kind of running out in the trails at Oil Creek, and I went out for a run with them one day, and I'm like, this is it. This is where I belong. And it just kind of took off after that. So I've done a few ultras. I despise running on the road. I need to be in the woods going at my slow shuffle pace, and I'm a happy camper when I'm out there.
So, you said like 2016 is basically when you started. So, you were what,
50 year,
49?
51. Yep, 49 years old.
That's awesome. I mean, I always tell people it's better late than never, but hey, you could like it just proves that at any age you can start at any age and have fun and enjoy running.
Absolutely.
So, what drew you into signing up for the Oil Creek stack races, and was this your first time doing the stacked races?
So I did the Meet You in 5 was actually the first time I ever put a bib on, and that was in 2017. The first time I ever put besides the Tough Mudders, I did the Tough Mudder in 16 with a bib, but it was my first running race ever and it was the Meet You in 5.5. And I did the 5 mile race that weekend. And that weekend I went on with another running friend of mine who I had just met, who happens to share my birthday. We went and did birthday miles that weekend. So we did the 5 mile race together. We got 30 miles in for her birthday that day, and we continued on Sunday, and we got up to 51 for my birthday that weekend. So I kind of wanted to do the 5 and 13. I'm coming back off an injury and just kind of getting rolling again here with the racing after a couple of years and running. And I'm from Titusville, and just kind of a way to give back to the community. I kind of treated this more as a training run for me. Something fun to do, get out and see some running friends and give back to the community. And it was an awesome event. I know I'm going to be signing up for it again next year.
Yeah, this is the second time I've done it, and I missed it last year, but I sort of regretted it. It's just how that like a feel good feeling and vibe that the race gives off that keeps me wanting to come back.
Yeah, the parking lot and the Jacobs team, he does everything with the race. It was just a really fun time, leading up to the start, and in between they had the DJ there and the cookout afterwards, and just lots of people milling around watching the other racers come in and having a good time. It was a fun day.
Yeah, it did get a little hot. Did you have a plan going in for completing both races, or were you just like you said, just using it as a training run?
Kind of just using it as a training run, kind of building my volume up right now a little bit. So I went out 2 weeks before and did that 12-mile loop down to Miller Farm and back. So I was kind of wasn't really worried about completing or a time wise. I'm just going to go out and kind of run how I feel and just go with it.
All right, so after the obviously the all right, so if people don't know, I should have said this earlier. The 5 mile starts at 7 a.m. and the 13 starts at 8:30. So you got an hour and a half in between both races. Well, to complete the 5 mile, you have an hour and a half to start the 13. Um, so it sets it up pretty nice. So you're actually a little bit more fresh than if you would have did the 13 first, then the five, because you would have had a bigger gap of time wise to wait for people. But um, so after finishing the 5 miler, how did you prepare for the 13 in between?
Um, Refilled. So I went out on the 5 miler. I took a vest with me just so I could kind of carry my keys and my phone easily. And I took a water bottle with electrolytes in it on the 5 miler. And I got done like in an hour and 8 minutes. So I had 20 minutes basically to get ready. Clothes, everything was good. I changed vest to one. I had like a liter and a half hydration pack in the back. I ate a JJ's pie in between the races, get some more calories in me. And I finished that electrolyte bottle, and then I took a Turner's lemonade with me, and I had another electrolyte pack that I finished the lemonade by kind of the halfway point, refilled with water, and threw that electrolyte pack in it. I popped a few gels on the 13 miler, I guess maybe 4, and got through the day. So eating wasn't a problem or bonking or running out of energy. So I was able to kind of keep going at the pace I wanted to for the day. So for both races.
What electrolytes do you use?
I use some prime powder packets that I got at Walmart, and it's not a very complete. It doesn't have, I think, magnesium in it. It's basically just salt, maybe some potassium in it. I'm looking at Redmond brand Relight on Amazon. Those are in the cart for my birthday. I want to get one of my friends used those, and that looks like a more complete electrolyte pack in it. I've always kind of struggled with the hamstrings cramping up after, an hour or two. I was on Saturday. The back of my legs were kind of wanting to cramp. They didn't go full bore cramp, but they were teasing me a little bit, and I was able to just kind of back off on the speed and keep from getting totally cramped up. But I haven't mastered that part of the game yet, but I'm working on it.
Yeah, that's probably one of the hardest things to do in trail running or ultra running, in general, is getting your nutrition down, taking enough in, and then just getting your body used to it. I know, like, I use like calf sleeves instead of socks that seem to like keep the pressure and acid from building up a little bit. Seems to help me. Um, so you might check out some of those if you get a chance.
Right, like some compression calf sleeves, compression socks, and
Yeah, but they're not. I always tell people they're not all made the same. So you sort of probably have to waste a little bit of money and find the right brand that has the right compression for your body. It's one of those, you don't want it too soft or too easy where you don't feel pressure, but you don't want it too compressed where it's cutting the circulation off. And it's kind of a fine line, I guess.
gotcha. Got to find that happy medium.
Yeah. So how did your body feel after the 5 mile and the 13?
Um, Felt pretty good. Sunday, Monday, my quads were just heated up a little bit, not wrecked or anything, but definitely can tell I was going up and down some hills on Saturday. So a little bit faster pace than I kind of usually do on my training runs. So a little bit beat up, but not in bad shape, ready to go again.
How was your training leading up to the race? Like, did you feel prepared, or did you feel like a little behind, or were you ready for your A game?
I was ready, I guess, for where I'm at with running. I did exactly what I wanted to do pace wise. Actually went a little bit faster than I wanted to. To kind of backtrack a little bit, this injury that I'm kind of bouncing back from. I have a degenerative meniscus tear on my right knee. Just the knees are wearing out. Arthritis in both knees. I've had them both x-rayed, and I've had an MRI done on my right knee, which is a bad one. Nothing they can do with surgery. There's nothing to clean out. The meniscus, they said, is actually like has tears in it horizontally, like not torn down through. They're like, think of a rubber disc that's just been compressed a million times and it's starting to wear out. That's kind of what's happening with my knees. So that really flared up a couple of years ago, and it kind of deflated me. I'm like, I need to go to work on Monday morning. I can't go out and destroy myself on the weekends. So I just almost kind of quit running basically. So I have 2 100-mile Oil Creek DNFs, and I want that buckle really, really bad. It's the only buckle I want right now. So that's my race I'll be signing up for October. So my strategy is pretty much going to be power hike, run where I can, where it's smooth, run on the roads, hike all the hills, hike any place where there's roots, rocks, hike it. I was gifted with a crazy ability to walk super fast. My training is a lot of biking now, a lot of treadmill incline work. I go out on the trails and maybe do 5 one day and 12 another day. That's about where I'm at right now. So And my runs on the trails, I take it easy. I can't go bombing down the hills anymore. It just beats my knees up. I'm also getting cortisone injections in my knees. So I'm like doing everything I can to be able to get this 100-mile buckle in October. Also, I lost about 30 pounds since October last year. I'm like, I need to be as light as possible. I haven't been this light since a junior high school. I weigh 175 now. It's the lightest I've been in a long, long time. So things are going pretty good so far. My knees are really holding up, and I just need to kind of slowly keep ramping the volume up to get to where I can go. For it's going to be 30 hours. I'm going to use all the time up for that 100-miler, but I need to keep working towards that. So,
Oh, geez, it really does sound like you already have your plan dialed in and what you want to do and what you want to achieve for that. I mean, I know people say about stem cells. I don't know if that would help you in that situation or not, but some people swear by them and it might fix it, but it's still kind of experimental, I guess.
yeah, I've been reading about everything I could possibly do. So I think I'm on a pretty good program. The orthopedics folks that I'm seeing are on board with how I'm doing my training and everything. So,
So, what did you find most difficult about each of the two races?
um, I knew it was going to get a little bit muddy on the 5-mile loop with all the rain that we had um, prior to Saturday morning, and as that much foot traffic. And when I went out on the 13, it was definitely muddier at the 5-mile parts. Once you got past that intersection, I thought it was going to be better, and it was. So I wasn't having too much of a problem with the mud, but I was concerned about that. I did take trekking poles with me on the 13-miler. I did not have them on the 5-miler, but I knew once I got a little bit more tired and was potentially the mud that I was going to need my trekking poles. So, and it kind of started to get warm. So I was keeping the water going quite a bit on the second race. Hydration, I didn't run into really the problems with that. And I can also eat. I have no problem eating anything when I'm out running. I can just power the food down. So getting calories in me wasn't a problem. And the mud's what I thought was going to be the problem, but it wasn't bad.
Yeah, I was actually kind of shocked because I figured all the rain that we got, well, we'll put it this way, the rain that I experienced on the way to the race, because I drive like 2.5 hours to get there, it was just like pouring down rain. And I was like, wow, this is going to be a muddy, sloppy mess where a lot of people are going to fall and get hurt. And it wasn't really too bad on the 5 mile, like both times. And I was expecting maybe on the 13 to be a lot worse. But for what we had, I was very shocked at how little mud compared to what I was expecting.
I think with Oil Creek, because that Girard Trail is like on the side hills, the high banks of Oil Creek. In most places, the water is running across the trail. And you're not like running through like a creek bottom. I've run some places. I've run at Settler's Cabin where Hellhath is down near Robinson. And when it gets wet there, it's muddy. Like you're running through a pasture. It's deep mud. It's stinky. It's really slippery. Where Oil Creek will have some spots like that. But a lot of the places, the water goes across the trail and then you're onto a dry patch. So, and it does seem to dry up pretty quick. So I went out Monday morning and did the 5-mile loop, and it was like bone dry already after just a
Nice.
day of sunshine. So Oil
No,
Creek's pretty good that way.
well, yeah, that would make it a little bit nicer because, like as you said, it is a little bit. Well, I mean, not a little bit, but it is like slanted. You're running more on hillside than you are like flat or anything like where it's going to like get bogged down, where the water's just going to become a basin type deal.
Right.
So, is it like that for the 100 miler as well? I never got to ran the 100 mile course yet.
Yeah. So the 100-miler, all the Oil Creek trail runs races, there's a 25K, which is essentially the 13-mile loop that we did on Saturday. They just had that race new last year, was the first time I ran that. That was the first time I've had a bib on in a couple of years. The 50K, you would run south on the same side we did past Miller Farm Bridge down. They call that section 2 and 3. It adds another 15 miles on. So essentially a loop from Titusville south and back is a 50K. And then the 100K is 2 loops. The 100-miler is 3 loops plus the 5-mile race that we did on Saturday gets you to just over 100 miles. So It's the same kind of terrain though. You're running on that side hill. Some places are roots and rocks, and there's some other really super nice runnable places. So
I sort of like to hear that a little bit because that sort of plays into my wheel. I like rollingness more than anything. Like I hate flat because it just tears me up like more than anything. So I like that rollingness like the both courses were. Like it I mean you might have had a couple big climbs, but it wasn't nothing like we were doing it all day long.
no, and I think like the 100-mile course at Oil Creek, it ends up being about 14 miles of either like dirt road or asphalt, and then you're on the single track the other 86 miles. And like that one place, I know you'll know where I'm talking about, Dean. It was after you went across the car bridge and we were coming back towards Drake Well. There's that one downhill. It's just like 2 or 3 people wide. It's pine needles. It's gorgeous. And it's just like so smooth. And it's like everybody probably runs down that hill because it's like, it's just gorgeous, really super runnable. And there's a couple other places on the southern end of the course that are just like that. So I really do the trail running for me, the variation, the speed and pace variation, and kind of having to use your eyes to scan out ahead of you and what's in front really is what I like about trail running so much as opposed to like road running. So,
Yeah, once you get that trail vision under your belt, it opens up a whole lot of things because then you could actually look side to side and not worry about what's at your feet and tripping all the time.
yeah.
I always tell people it's a little bit weird, but I don't know how we can do it where we can look 10 feet ahead of us and not trip when we look side to side.
Yeah, it's a funny game that your brain plays for the trail runners that you're doing exactly that. You scan ahead 10 yards and then you're kind of back at your feet and you can look around to the side a little bit and then you take a peek ahead. And it's once you get your brain trained to like process that, it knows like, okay, 10 steps ahead, there's a rock, and you kind of start to learn right where to put your feet. It's crazy how it happens, but mentally, it's a good exercise too. So, not just physically, but it's good for your brain and your eyes and that coordination thing.
Yeah, our brains are amazing when they can do stuff like that. Now, you were talking about looking ahead and, looking for flagging and stuff. In your opinion, how is the course flagging, and do you prefer flagging on the ground like they had there, or do you prefer it out, like up in the trees?
I like it on the ground a lot. It just kind of that's where we're looking. That's where I'm looking, anyways. I'm not really looking up in the trees very often. I ran a race once that was flagged in the trees, and it was kind of tough. And it also wasn't marked very well as far as like you'd look ahead and you couldn't see the next marker. They do such a great job with the 5 and 13. Like if you were at a marker, you could look ahead and see one for sure, sometimes two markers. Like, I thought the course was very, very well marked. The intersections where you could have taken a wrong turn, they had them marked with extra flags kind of blocking off where you didn't want to go. They had, like they called them course marshals, people actually at a couple of the intersections to help make sure people stayed on track. So I didn't hear any stories of anybody getting off course this year at all. So, and I thought it was marked well, easy to follow.
Yeah, I'm sort of because I do a lot of trail races here or there. Like different groups do flagging differently. Um, I'm seeing more and more on the ground, and I think because that's usually what happens out west because they really don't have trees and like say Arizona or some of those desert places. I think the ground is the way to go if we can get away with it in PA because, like you said, that's where your eyes are, and if you're looking up, there's a greater chance of tripping if you're looking up flagging in the trees than on the ground. But I guess it depends on the course itself because we'll say like a World's End or Eastern States where you're running in to the night, you sort of need that flagging in the air where it's you can put some reflectiveness on it.
Yeah. They do the Oil Creek 100 kind of the same way the 5 and 13 was. It's on the ground and they have reflective little tabs on the flags. And when you have a headlamp on, it's like an airport runway. Like you can see like so well out there. It's marked very much the same way as both races are marked the same way. So I like it on the ground.
Yeah, I also like you said they had those like course marshals pointing in the right way. I do like how he where we split, we go to like the left for the 5 mile, we go to the right for the 13. how they had that woman standing there, and then she actually like pulled the flags to the left um after the 5 mile was done. So that way there was like no confusion, and she didn't have to be there for 4 or 5 hours just standing there pointing people. So I thought that was very
Yeah,
smart with him.
yeah. I thought the race was just like so well run. You know, leading up the emails from Jacob, the social media posts. And it's a nice event, and yeah, I had no issues following directions or where we needed to be, what time we needed to be there, how things were going to happen. So
Now here's one question. It was getting a little redundant as many times as I saw these things. Those orange newts or salamanders, whatever they were, there had to be a couple hundred on the 5, and then there was probably like 5 to 600 on the 13 miler. So it was getting to be one of those things where we had to like dodge them all the time. Did you run into that a lot?
I saw a lot of them on Saturday. It seems like after a rainstorm in the spring, there's tons and tons of them out there. It was probably about 2017 or 18. I was an early morning about this time of year. I did a full loop, 27 miles on my own, and I counted them for a while and I quit counting because there was just so many of them. There was tons and tons of them.
Yeah, I never seen so many in one area my whole life. Like even being out in the woods and doing like Laurel Highlands hiking trail, I'd never seen so many. And I was pointing it out to the other two guys that I was running with. I was like, we got to pay attention because we don't want to step on any. And I'm sure, unfortunately, probably a couple did get stepped on, but it was kind of one of those things where you had to be cognizant of as you were running.
Yeah, it's always interesting the different places I go running and the little ecosystems are so different. I guess that's part of the beauty of trail running is you get to be out there and enjoy those things. And like I went Monday and I startled a deer, was in a treetop right beside the trail, and I saw 3 snakes on Monday. So it's like you never know what you're going to see out there. And I saw more of the newts.
Yeah, because I think before the 5, he warned us about a bear being a little aggressive, and I was just like, oh geez, because it's like that's my luck that I'm gonna run into the bear and it coming after me because I'm assuming if it was aggressive, it probably had cubs. But luckily I think nobody ran into it, so at least we avoided that one.
Yeah, I haven't seen the bear out there yet this year, but you always hear stories. Somebody sees them pretty regularly, like some other outdoor groups that I follow locally here. Like somebody's always seeing bears out there at Oil Creek, so they are there. I've seen them a couple times, but not in the last few months. So
It
I
did
think
get
you're
a
good as long as you don't get in between Mama and the Cubs. They want to get away from us generally. So
Yeah, that's always my biggest worry is especially in the spring, it's when the cubs are with the mothers a lot more. It's like, oh, one of these times I'm going to end up seeing a mother with cubs. So far, in my trail running, it's always been one, not multiple. So I've gotten lucky so
gotcha.
far.
Good.
So it did get a little bit hot during the 13. Well, probably the start of the 13. Did it affect you at all while you were running the 13?
Not really. Like I said, I drank more water. I was like, I was telling myself I need to drink more. It's getting warm out. Like, yeah, the humidity was getting built up, and then the sun actually started shining, and it did feel pretty warm. I don't care to run when it's any warmer than it was. That was plenty of warm for me on Saturday, although we're getting to that point in the year where it's going to get warmer and warmer. But I really love a 60-degree day, a 50-degree day to be out trail running is more my happy time. So
Yeah, it would have been nice if it stayed like it was before we started the 5 miler. It was a little foggy, a little misty, but that's a little bit more bearable than the end of the 13 miler.
yeah, I wore a long sleeve tech shirt all day too, and I didn't change that
Ooh.
between. So I wasn't overly hot, but it was starting to get warm.
Well, I mean, I guess it keeps the sun off you as well. So it's sort of one of those weigh the pros and cons of it as well.
Yep, sun and bugs. I'm always looking to. Like I wore a ball cap and I had a buff around my neck, but sometimes out at Oil Creek the bugs get so bad that I'll pull that buff up to kind of cover my ears and my neck up, and it keeps the bugs at bay a little bit. So
Well, I think the worst part is as you're running and you just get one sucked down your throat more than
that's
the
never
biting.
In the bees, I have a tough time with bees. I will, if I get stung, I'm going to look like Star Trek Next Generation characters. So I do not get along good with bees. So they're not too bad this time of year, but as you go through the summer, the yellow jackets and the hornets get a little bit more prolific, and I don't like them, and I like to stay away from them.
I definitely agree with that. Um, so so do you have any tips for anybody that wants to do one or both of these races?
Yeah, just sign up and come and do them, whether you're trained up for them or not. Um, Come and make it a training run, or if you are trained up, come and get after it and go fast.
Now, did you get to visit the museum or have you visited the museum before?
So I grew up in Oil City and I've lived in Titusville my adult life. So elementary school field trips, probably a half dozen times, Dean. And I've been there a few times as an adult, and I've taken some extended family and friends there a couple times. It's a really neat museum if you're a history buff. Titusville's kind of full of all kinds of history, but Drake Wells got those outdoor displays and a lot of interactive stuff. Really, really interesting museum.
Yeah, I got to go in 2022, the first time I ran a race, and I was blown away by the museum, the staff, and just like the artifacts and the history in general that I never would have known if I didn't do the race. Because I probably, to be honest with you, the museum was cool, but it's one of those things like people from my area probably just aren't going to go visit without a reason. So I was very thankful to be actually to go and experience the museum itself.
That's cool. I'm glad you enjoyed it. So yeah, growing up around the area, it's kind of what everybody knows about, and we do good, I guess, in Jeopardy if we had oil history questions. And yeah, I can see it if you're from out of the area. We take oil for granted, but it really is kind of a driver of everything that happens in industry and the economy and everything. So it is important, and to kind of know where it started here was one of the big birthplaces. They call it the birthplace of the oil industry, Titusville.
Yeah, and the flood. I didn't know about the flood because since I'm near Johnstown, everybody wants to talk about the floods in Johnstown, but finding out there was a huge one, probably if worse up there than actually in Johnstown.
Yeah, I'm not sure Johnstown was bad. I remember hearing about that in the news and haven't read a lot about it, but that was not a good flood at all there. So, but yeah, Titusville's over the years have had some floods. Back in the oil boom days, they used to put oil in wooden barrels and then have it on barges on Oil Creek, and they said that back in the day, like the whole creek would be on fire. And like all those hills where we are running amongst the trees, like all the trees were cut down to make, oil derricks and buildings and houses. And it was a way different landscape than it is today. It's back to wilderness now.
Things come and go, and at least as much as we need the oil, I guess it's beneficial that we're recovering the world as well.
Yep. Yeah, we're being smart about it. And the ecology and all those things, it is good that we're being kind to them and things like that.
Oh, but I forgot I was wearing. I forgot to mention earlier. I put our hat on so if people could see. This is the hat for. No, I'll take my headphones off. This is the hat they give us. I don't know if it'll show up, but either way, that's the hat for doing both races.
The hat is very, very nice. I'm kind of picky with my ball caps, how they fit. And I'm like, I looked at that hat. I'm like, this thing is boss. Super nice hat. It's got the big mesh on it, and the material up in the front's like super lightweight, like a performance material. So I was really super happy with the hat. So I'm like, oh, cool. A nice hat to wear.
Yeah, even
Try not to get dirty.
yeah, even the socks are pretty nice, and they hold up pretty good. Well, through a lot of trail races, we'll put it that way.
Yeah, trail racing, the dirt and the grime and the grit's hard on the socks. So
All right. Just another question or two for you. What else do you have planned this year besides like the Oil Creek or anything exciting on your docket?
um not really race wise. It's just the Oil Creek 100. I'm like, I've kind of said to myself, I have to take care of those two DNFs in the 100 miler before I will allow myself, like, any other race where I need to travel for, or like a big exciting race. Um, so I will need to get that buckle. So that's kind of the focus this year. I'm taking a couple weeks off in late July, August. We have some family coming in, and Titusville has like an oil festival week. So I'm taking some time off from work there, but not really anything. I have some projects around the house and fitting my training in. So that's really about it.
You gonna go back to Hoath no hurry?
I don't think so. I don't think I'm going to put a bib on until October for Oil Creek. I um, saw Peter when I was down helping my friend Chris Cedar out at Rabid Raccoon. I talked to him and I was like, oh, maybe I could go do Hellhath. That was a fun race. That was my first ultra. I did the 50K there. I'll get back there someday.
Yeah, I did it last year, and I'll tell you what, it lived up to its name, and it was probably one of the top three hottest days of the year last year when we did the race, and I was just drenched and overheated the whole time. So it did live
Wow.
up to its name.
It is the year I did it. That was 17. It was hot. And there was one other year, maybe right before COVID, that it was like a blistering, super hot summer day. Um, and if was it muddy or dry when you ran last year, Dean?
Oh. Uh, I want to say it was a little muddy in spots, like the lower part, but the upper part wasn't bad.
Yeah, the year I ran the race there was a couple spots for like people. There was a little downhill, kind of up on one of the hills, and people were just falling and slipping in the mud. And it's like you got to that on your next loop, and you just basically had to like try to control slide down this little grade. It wasn't a huge hill, but like
I guess that's about it for the questions that I had today. It was nice talking with you and seeing you at the race Saturday. Um, I'm actually looking forward to seeing you finish your Oil Creek 100. I know you're going to. And yeah, let me know how it goes, and maybe we'll do another one of these back then.
sounds good. I'll keep you in the loop on my progress, Dean. I appreciate you having me on, and we'll see you again for sure next year at the 5 and 13 stack.
All right, sounds good. Have a good day.